Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 281. For today's show, we have some updates regarding the 915, the Mage Towers, which have been a sought out feature for a really long time, and it's finally being confirmed to be happening together with the rewards with it, with one very unique reward for Guardian Druids, a completely new model. So that will be exciting. We also have some other news covering Classic as well with the new season of Mastery. And we'll also, as usual, wrap up the show talking about all the things outside of the game as well, since those are some really important topics as of lately. So, before we get into anything though, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia, and I'm a full time streamer on Twitch. My co host is a Wowhead site director, the lovely Perculia.
I'm Perk. Nice to do the show with everyone. Normally, I do maintenance on guides, news, features, setting up new parts of the site, so it's nice to do the show and talk about some of the things that have been going on at Wowhead. Normally, I am joined by Brightpaw, who is right off camera hugging the microphone, so hopefully he'll show up very soon. We're talking about druids today, so there's a very good chance that he will. But yeah, we'll talk about some of the 915 highlights, then the surprise classic news, and then the more serious Blizzard stuff at the end. So we'll kind of start with like the really hype stuff and then move into the more formal, serious stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's get started with some popular news, which is since the last show, which was a few weeks ago, we have had confirmation that the Mage Tower is returning with some very interesting rewards.
Yep.
So,
We
yeah.
did take a look at a lot of the recolors from the sets last show, but at that time it was not 100% confirmed that these are indeed, rewards from Mage Tower whatsoever. Although we did kind of suspect it. Now it
Mm-hmm.
has been confirmed, as Perk said, and we have also been given a surprise new reward, which highlights the Guardian Druids.
Yeah. So, Blizzard stated in their blue post that during Legion, the Mage Tower awarded most specs a new weapon appearance, yet players who missed earning those still have countless other admirable weapon transmogs. But for Guardian Druids, the Mage Tower prize was an alternate bear form with a unique silhouette and animations. There is simply nothing else like it in the game. For years, we've heard feedback from Druid players who are frustrated that something so transformative is no longer available, and we agree. Therefore, in Legion Time Walking, Guardian Druids who complete the High Lord's Return challenge will also receive a new Fel variant of the bear form. It is the original forms in Legion with their unblemished natural coloration will remain clearly distinguishable from this new one.
Yep, indeed. And I have to say that this is a really nice recolor. I was
Yeah.
expecting, or not expecting, but I was hoping to have some cool rewards for these Mage
Mhm.
Tower stuff for the ones, especially the forms that have been removed. But I didn't expect a such a cool looking one, and it also screams Legion. I really like that.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, it's a slightly different brown from the Mage Tower challenge. It looks very different from it. And yeah, I think it looks cool. Of course, it's led to the question of, well, there are other unique things like the neon cat form was pretty
Yep,
distinctive,
the feral
and
ones. Mm-hmm.
then there's the paladin and warrior flails that have the unique physics. How it's like the stick with the chain and the barb
Mm-hmm.
at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So people are saying, couldn't we open this up to even more unique things? So what
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about that? Because I think we were saying before the show that you had thoughts on the cat druids.
Yeah, I really like the feral druid form. I can see the point with the statement that you just read quickly, how they talked about this specific, the Guardian Druid form is completely unique in shape. You actually cannot get this in any other way than the original Legion Time Walking. So now, by getting this, you're finally getting one version of having that shape. Even if you may not have the colors, you have the shape. With the Feral form, I guess you kind of do have different options of feral skins by using the other transmog options. They all still look quite feral, like a cat. They don't look completely different, but there's something about the color, the neon feeling to it, and how they also have a slight tail sort of thing, right? That goes after them when you're walking around.
I'm curious about, which could also kind of uh, change my opinion, is if you unlock this Guardian Druid form, um, does that let you collect the others, the other, like, several other
Oh,
tints?
that's interesting. Hmm.
Because then someone could argue, like, oh, this Guardian Druid tint, like, I can't go back and get the original mage thing, but this let me get, like, the rated battleground, or, the mythic plus one, like the other color tints of that. Because if it works that way, I could see more people saying, oh, well, Guardian Druids get a second chance at this. Why can't
Yeah.
I get this, So I would just be curious how that's coded
Hmm.
into the data.
Mm-hmm. I would suspect
Apparently
that
there's
you would not get all those things, like you said, because then everyone would expect all of them to come back.
Mhm.
Um, but it is interesting because maybe it would be a kind of unexpected result of how it's coded, like you said, that it kind of just
Yeah.
happens. That would be interesting to see. But yeah, I would love to have more color options for feral, for people who never got a chance to get them, to get something that looks neon, and for us who got all of them to maybe get an additional color, maybe in the same fashion as this guardian form, maybe also a kind of legiony fell green type of color. Maybe in mixture, like a duo colored thing. I think that would be cool.
I think that Blizzard can maybe also see how popular these types of rewards were. Legion was an expansion around getting a weapon, and people like the ability to get the weapon in different colors, weird things like flails or weapons with voice effects. These, druid forms are very cool. The glyphs, when they do druid glyphs, are also very hype. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe that's a sign that they should do, more things in this direction, kind of like how they took another stab at customization in this patch.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not, a flashy new system, but it's something that connects people to their characters and it motivates them to want to get it.
Yep. Indeed. I think they
So,
could definitely consider doing more of them. I am curious how they came to the decision of just doing one. um, but
I mean,
I guess we'll
yeah,
see.
it was a pretty big ask in like when we were
For
data
the Guardian
mining the
one?
color.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when we were data mining the colors, we were data mining the sets in like before Blizzard announced this. But with
Mm-hmm.
the Guardian Druid, we only data mined this several weeks later after the blue post when we had all the other sets already. So I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was like a slightly later edition, or um maybe they're like, "Oh, with these hints people really want Guardian Druid. Let's like that started later than the armory colors."
Mm-hmm. I
But
think it will be
yeah,
cool if we see some more unique ones for each class.
yeah, I also think it would be interesting with how people are saying that it feels like a lot of Legion was sort of a waste, or no one, like, it was so unique, but now no one really has motivation to do all this, old content, but there's a lot of like a really good class hole stories. I pawn now. Maybe they could add like a few more tints of to the other artifact weapons to get people to want to go back and experience things like the Nightborne story, or play through the quests, or
Mm-hmm.
understand why the four horsemen are how they are, if you're like a Death Knight, or understanding more class lore that's suddenly important in Shadowlands. It's
Mm-hmm.
because there's always a thing of Blizzard makes all this elaborate content and then they discard it, so maybe they could
Yeah, it's actually so
um
sad.
add some things. Yeah. Like it doesn't seem
Mm-hmm.
very sustainable. Like, maybe I think in Legion at the start people were like, "Oh, new solution, we make a cool system and everyone plays it, and then in BFA we do it again, and a few expansions later it's like, yeah, we can't just keep, you know, making artifact level coolness and elaborate stuff and then tossing it in the bin."
Yeah. It's actually really sad. I mean,
Yeah.
even something like, for example, the class order halls. I think that should have maybe been something that would be continued to build on. Maybe update the
Mm,
class order hall instead of keep creating like new places to be, because there is actually no place right now where I would go to where I just see warlocks, for example. So keeping
right.
it and maybe tying it, maybe better portal systems or something to make it, to not force people to go back to Legion to access it. Just new ways to be able to reach it and keep building upon it. I think creating a lot of content that you just discard afterwards, like you said, it doesn't really sound healthy or worth it. So it's like a lot of
Uh,
effort just being thrown.
yeah, I mean, I know they did that whole new players experience with Exile's Reach, but they could also there could be an opportunity to use the class halls as like a class specific area that you
Mm-hmm.
like chill in as a new player. Maybe there's like a channel for like class advice or like training dummies, like stuff that you could feel welcome with as a new player, learning more about your class than
Mm-hmm.
just that 1 to 10 experience. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just
Because I
think
did
that
think,
Legion is go ahead.
I was gonna say, I remember thinking this is actually really cool that there's just warlocks in here. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say it's just really cool how you can see other warlocks and be like, oh, like I can inspect other people's gear and
Mm-hmm.
see like how cool they are, and compare myself with achievements or rate progression or score. So I think that could be cool. People seem to like class specific stuff. You could definitely add more class specific rewards to each hall. But yeah, I just was saying that Legion especially feels like there's so much discarded
Mm-hmm.
content
Mm-hmm.
from it. So yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Especially with how other games are like, oh, Final Fantasy, you just like play through everything from one expansion and then like the next one, and with WoW, it's like, oh well, you know, you rush through one of
Don't do
them and
anything from the old ones. Yeah.
yeah, ignore all the elaborate things we set
Yeah.
up that make these
It's
quest
such a
lines pay off.
waste. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's actually so sad because
Yeah, now
systems
that
are
you've played both.
inactivated, stories are like just thrown away. Like there's so much time and effort and everything that people have put into it. And like sure, you can go back and redo some of those quests and stuff, but I think some functionality needs to live on too for people to feel like it's worth it, you know?
Yeah.
Like if the class order hall still existed and it would still, be an active place that people go to hang out, and then maybe if those quests with the artifact weapons and all that, those quests would still be available within the class order hall, it would kind of make it more available to you.
Yeah, what if the
Like,
class order hall was like where you have to go to access your player housing, and you've got like a room or something
yeah.
off of your class order hall that's like class specific, and you
Mm-hmm.
can put all your class specific armor and
Mm-hmm.
trophies and stuff there. Like that
Mm-hmm.
would make sense that you're, you know, teaching the apprentices in the order hall, so you're hanging out there with your lodgings. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I hope that time walking that this is a step to for Blizzard realizing that they need to be smarter about reusing the content they create, not just, oh, we're gonna reuse the tech in the future, being like, no, like this is good content. You want to keep doing stuff with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's fun, find a way to let people keep having fun.
Yeah. And
Because
I
yeah.
just saw the or maybe I was thinking of the wrong thing. I was just thinking of the warlock Fellfire quest. Um, Having something like that also then being accessed through class order hall, I feel like putting more dev efforts into things that will last over more expansions would be so useful for everyone else's red thread, and also for devs' time and effort that they're putting into things for it to not just be discarded, you
Yeah.
know?
Feel like as far as attracting audiences, with 9.1, they had all these systems, but watching the trailer, it felt very technical, like, oh, we've got shards and scores, and it seemed geared towards people that were more in a competitive mindset, which is totally valid, but if Blizzard is gearing their marketing and content towards uh, one specific type of player, that seems risky if they miss the mark, and then it also drives
Yeah.
other players away that are like, well, I want like, a bunch of cool story, or I just want to have fun. I don't want to score. I just want to like
Yeah. I
like
want to have an
do
order
mini
hall where
games.
I can do mini games. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to do mini
So
games.
yeah, so I think
Uh,
they just need to think about recapturing that fun, or else it will be a thing where it's like they emphasize the competitive content, and then they attract people that want to do competitive things that don't care about questing, so they think that they don't need to make like emphasize their stories, or it's like, oh, all of our players just want to rush to 60 anyway, so let's make them skip all the quests. Like, you're just gonna sort of snowball into a thing where you have all this discarded well-crafted content.
mm-hmm.
So I hope this is the first step to them trying to uh, reuse things to extend the life of things. Sort of the reverse of BFA, where they, you know, like made people abandon a lot of the old things.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you get something really cool if you, I mean, sort of beyond lore master, like you get something super cool if you actually like play through all of the quests, in a certain order. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
going back to the Mage Tower, I want to quickly um, skip around a little in notes before I get to the Soaring Spell Tome. Um, a new achievement category was added
Yeah.
for time walking, which is exciting because they made these for the Mage Tower achievements that unlock rewards, but usually when they make a category, there's more than three things.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
this could
If there's a
also be evidence.
category, mm-hmm.
Yeah, this could be evidence that more things are coming in the future,
Yep.
which sounds very promising.
Mm-hmm. That does
Like, I
mean
know
that
in the
they will
past,
probably put more thought into time walking actually being a real thing, and maybe they will then decide that, hey, like tuning this content is actually worth it for people, and not just a thing where they dump 1,000 rewards for thousands of badges and leave it at
yeah,
that, but instead
it's
like
like,
an
oh, I'm just
active
gonna, yeah.
content.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, we talked in the past how there were those alternate colors for the mop challenge mode. Like, what if they brought back
Mm-hmm.
proving grounds, or like found a way to make the dungeons harder? Find some sort of mop related challenge there. Um,
It, speaking of proving
little stuff
grounds,
for everything. Yeah.
where do you have to go to that specific tower in MOP to access proving grounds, or how do you access it?
I don't know if they took it out, but the proving grounds were around in Warlords, and I think you spoke to an NPC in your garrison. Um,
Garrison. Okay. See, if we had class order halls, we could reach the proving grounds there.
yeah, but
Hmm.
yeah, that sounds so weird. It's like, oh, well, I decided not to level with the mop storyline, so I have no idea what a proving ground is. Where it's like, oh, I didn't do Legion. I don't know what an artifact is. Like, it's so weird how you can just skip major parts of the of the game.
And just how some parts of the game are just completely like in secret. Like
Yeah,
you can
especially if it
play
was
so long,
iconic.
and if you didn't play at the time, you can just like never know what proving grounds is.
Yeah, or stuff that's removed, like the whole legendary quest line in Mop was really interesting. And then like even all of the Anwin and Rathian chat, that was all removed. So like 8.3 kind of made less sense, as well as seeing like
Wait, did they
Anduin's
just remove the quest
really
lines?
yeah. So you can't do that, and you can't get that really cool cape with the cloak effects, but
Oh,
it's like that
oh,
could
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
something cool to bring back or have the effect as a like transmog reward, a glow effect.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. We still actually haven't gotten proper cloak effects like that since then.
Yeah, so like that's just an example of if you like story, you would want to encounter that story in Mop or similarly in WAD for the ring,
Mm-hmm.
you would have missed out on the whole like, who done it like, with Khadgar and like the spies and then finally, purifying the ring. You would miss out on that and if Blizzard has the logic now that oh we're going back in time to all these you can experience the quests in this area that's frozen in times like why can't we see those very interesting quest lines?
It's like these things you don't really think about it when you are actively playing yourself. So when I have
Right.
always played and they get removed, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. New expansion, like of course, guys. Um, but as as I've been thinking about it more lately, especially with now having experiences in playing other MMORPGs as well,
Hmm.
I realized that it's such a shame to lose all of that stuff because some of those things are actually so good. And did you know?
Yeah.
And also, it just makes the game feel broken when certain things are just missing. Did you know, for example, you can't kill Ordos if you never got the legendary at the time?
Yeah, I heard that because you can't
You can't
jump
access the
over.
area. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's some unique transmog there, and it's
Yep,
also
that
weird
people can't get.
because a lot of the Ordos items were named after community figures, and I don't know those if those people all got their items, so if they want the legendary cloak, they can't like kill Ordos.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
kind of sad. Just because you didn't play at the time, you can like no longer go back and just access an area that other people can go to. It's yeah, it's strange, and I never cared about it before as a player, as an active player. I never cared about it until I started playing other MMOs, and I see how they have old content and people still care about it, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess it makes sense, especially if there's new players who are experiencing World of Warcraft. It's really
Yeah.
sad to realize that those people can't experience that and are having this imaginary wall of not accessing certain things in game because they didn't play at a time. It just feels so
Yeah.
silly and such a
Especially if
waste.
someone has like a really good memory of a certain area or thing, and that person can experience it because it was taken out.
Yeah.
Like I think for obviously Classic had like the very we'll get to it like the very hardcore private server speedrunning community, but I think you had a lot of people in Classic that were casual that just wanted to see the old zones and the quest to understand what was going on, what they missed because they can't access that in the retail game anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe not all those people hit 60, but I think at least at the start before like the bots took over, you did have a lot of retail people being like, "Oh, this was Darkshire before, it
Mm-hmm.
got torn apart in the Cataclysm, Ashara before the goblins, every the barons before it was split in half. All these stories that changed over time. And I even go so go ahead.
Yeah, why don't we have some kind of chromie that allows us to go to pre-cataclysm everywhere? Like
Yeah,
all zones, all
because
quests.
two versions of game. But yeah, I would even argue and say that with how we're seeing that people have interest in old zone stories that they can have staying power if well done in other games, it's like why doesn't Blizzard maybe dramatize some of these stories they didn't have the resources to in the past? Like, the whole mob to WAD transition was in this very elaborate book. It's like, why don't we be like, oh, big update to MOP, you can now play through the story of the MOP to WAD transition. Now that we've
Mm.
got, tech like in-game cutscenes and,
Mm-hmm.
better visuals to show off the,
Mm-hmm.
dramatic nature of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um And I think people find it interesting because it is super confusing, like why things happen in certain orders, or getting from Mop to Wad was like, okay, we imprisoned Garrosh, and now we're in like time traveling, uh, Draenor. But that's a big leap.
Yeah, it
uh,
is.
and there's a lot of stories. A lot of the earlier stories feels like they imported a ton of information that we missed out on otherwise. So I think it would be interesting to have some of that in, or like the whole cataclysm, leading up to the cataclysm, the stuff that happened every week, or why the peace between the Lions and Horde sort of disintegrated after Wrath. Like, it could be interesting to dramatize some of these things so we understand them better, kind of like how Shadowlands makes you understand Arthas and Uther more, instead of just being like, oh well, read a summary of Warcraft 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
So
absolutely. I think it would be nice to have maybe even some kind of scenario like thing that maybe comes out for time
yeah.
walking where you can go through some of those mid expansion or like between expansion events like that. I think that would actually be
Yeah,
really
it's like,
cool.
oh, Chromie's done something special for time walking.
Mm-hmm.
Like the veil has parted even more. Like you can see this, you know, special moment, but only, for this week or two, and it makes you want to, play through that.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that they should do time walking more frequently, with how they keep adding more and more, and it seems a waste to not have the Mage Tower up for, months,
Mm-hmm.
if there's all these other time walking ones smushed in between.
I also saw a very interesting comment in the chat as well about how inconsistent it's been as well, because you can still craft the or like work on the legendaries from both Wrath and Cataclysm. So you have the legendary Shadowmourne from Wrath, and then with Kata you got the staff, and that part is actually really cool because I still sometimes when I go to Stormwind I see the big blue dragon that covers the
Uh,
entire
cool.
city,
You're like,
and I'm like,
I'm happy.
cool. Someone just completed the legendary staff. That's awesome. And I think having more of those things where like, huh, I did that, X amount of
Yeah.
years ago. Pretty cool that someone is still doing it now. And that's nice because they get nothing
Yeah.
out of it, right? They'll have a legendary in their bag that
Yeah.
is not
That's a fun
strong for
story.
anything. It might be strong for time walking, I guess. But yeah, it's like for fun and story. And even getting that staff had some really cool instances before it, like some puzzle like
Yeah. Turned into a
little
dragon.
challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So
we've got a
it's,
cat.
I think the legendaries in the game should never be removed, honestly. I think they should stay.
Yeah, it feels
Especially when
pretty
it's a
inconsistent.
unique like one piece, when it's like one staff or
Yeah,
one
especially if
cloak.
there's a story attached to it as well.
Yeah.
Um, I agree with that. Ripper,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? Um, but yeah, for our final Mage Tower thing, we wanted to highlight the Soaring Spell Tome. Um, this, based on Blizzard's Blue Post, made it seem like it's a reward for the achievement that requires you to complete all Mage Tower challenges. And what's
Yep.
interesting is that this was originally one of the rewards that you could vote on for the free mount, the Wandering Ancient one, but this was one of the runner-ups.
Yeah.
And it
I
fits
voted for
because
this one.
yeah, yeah, I voted for the cat. Um, but yeah, it looks pretty cool. The book is super detailed. If you look at it face down, there's all sorts of like runes and inscription things. It's very detailed. Um,
I have a video of it
so it's
too.
pretty cool. Yeah. The player animations are still unfinished. But it looks kind of cool in its in between form.
Yep. Yeah, the player animation just looks like it's casting.
Yeah.
We don't think that's final. Maybe the character will jump. I don't know. It's gonna be cool to
Yeah.
see. But the book itself looks amazing.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, that
yeah.
means I'm going back to do that
It
as
would be
time walking.
interesting if it would be interesting if they use the other mounts for other time walking challenges. Hint, hint.
Yeah, they might.
Like the caterpillar could be from mob time walking because it's like Tiller's farm.
Yeah, true.
And then I don't know where the cat could be from, but I mean the cat's pretty Meldraxxus. And what was the fifth one? Oh, it was the
It was
Nerubian.
4,
That
wasn't
sounds,
it?
yeah. That could be like a Wrath time walking reward. So yeah, they've got a few expansions covered there. Um, but yeah, we wanted to highlight some other news
Uh,
from the PTR. Go ahead.
One more bit on the time walking
Mhm.
is
Yeah,
that
time
we
walk.
also see that more old
Oh,
dungeons have been
yeah.
added to it, which also hints towards Blizzard realizing that people want to keep old content more active. Which again kind of takes us back to the whole topic of why are time walking events so rare? Maybe they should be up at all times. Maybe there should be a different time walking every week. And adding so many new dungeons definitely does kind of potentially hint towards making time walking more active.
Yeah. Maybe they'll switch it up every season. That could be something interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
I do hope that
or
they'll make it more active because right now waiting like a weeks, months in between them is way too long, especially if they end up having such cool rewards as well.
yeah. So yeah, so other things they've been adding, speaking of like sort of old content that was decent back in the day and then didn't get updated, is the Trial of Style adds cosmetic boot transmog rewards. We data mined these boots the first build, we didn't have a source, but now we've learned that there are 6 new cosmetic boots, and they have a unique look for races that don't normally wear shoes. So, trolls, for example, Draenei, it covers more of their feet than usual, so that's pretty exciting.
Oh, whoops.
And there are some shoes that are very neon, over the top, look like lava, and then some that are simple, and maybe you're like, why do I want simple shoes? But if you're one of the races that never gets to wear shoes, having just a plain pair of boots that covers your feet could be pretty exciting.
Yep, it's a problem that only certain races know of.
Yeah. So that's again, it's like I think Trial of Style was an interesting concept. It could be a good source to use armor sets that never made it into the game, but then they just kind of abandoned it as other games did more sophisticated things. So yeah, definitely hopefully they can give it even more attention or add more rewards to it in the future. Because it felt sad being like, oh, this coming along and we're hasn't gotten updates in 2 years. Why
Yeah.
bother doing it?
Yeah, I kind of got bored of it pretty fast because I felt like there wasn't much to do. If they would
Right.
bring updates to it, what do you think would make it more interesting?
I mean, I could see them adding more armor sets. I
As
think
rewards?
that could be good. Yeah, more armor sets, more themes. They added some sets from like TBC that weren't used, some recolors. So I think if the set is cool enough, you could it could be worth it. More things to buy from Trial of Style. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I think just more rewards along the lines of what players want from it. Like maybe it's not even recolored armor sets if people have, their favorite set. Maybe it's I can get cool glow effects on my hands or a weird back piece or I unlock like more necklace customization options from this event, something tied to character customization.
So like different types of customization,
Yeah.
rewards, recolors, maybe old sets in general, things that
Mhm.
are tied like that.
Armor dies.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that would be really
Yeah.
cool. I just find travel style kind of boring as a as a concept. If you've done it a few times, it becomes
Mm.
like okay, vote, 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 quick, quick. Like you kind of just want to do it quickly and get it over with. I'm wondering if there's ways of maybe doing it in a way that changes how that is. I'm not sure how though.
Yeah. I mean, with how the devs are trying to look at like player interactions in general and what people do in groups, it's like, oh, this is an activity you have to, interact with other humans with. Maybe we could take a look on how to make it more welcoming or less boring.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's an example of something they added and maybe they didn't fully think through how they should keep updating things with seasons or how to
Mm-hmm.
keep it fun or something
Mm-hmm.
people to look forward to as opposed to like, oh, it's a chore, yes, 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 okay, we're
Mm-hmm.
done.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think adding more rewards is a good idea in general, especially cosmetic rewards, because it's very fitting in the theme of what
Mhm.
it is. So that can be a first step. But I would hope to see something that changes a little bit, or maybe not changes how it works, but gives variety to how it works. I think would be
Yeah,
cool.
I could see that. Um,
We have
yeah.
another kind of cool thing, cosmetic speaking. We have the hand glow of Nightbornes,
Yeah.
which looks really
So,
cool. Look at that.
yeah, Blizzard announced that Nightborne are getting another customization option, and you can turn the hand glow on and off. And it seems to be new tech. It looks really cool. I wonder if they could add these things to other races or classes, because I think it would be cool, if a mage could always have their hands, glowing with arcane energy. That could be a cool,
Mm-hmm.
effect you unlock defeating a boss. Or maybe night elves get like they could have like leaves on their hands. I think it's cool. I think that this opens up a lot of potential for uh
Exactly.
customization. So I think this is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, like you said as well, this thing of we've seen it before, right? Where some kind of tech is being used for something, and then we see that the tech is starting to get used in other places, less expected places. With Nightborn, this might be the most expected one because it's very fitting, but it does, open up the possibilities of maybe having, like you said, some kind of leaf, for example, on your hand instead. And I think that's really interesting. We have here a side by side. Left side is current live game, and the right side is the PTR, and you can see how the hand is customized. Also, especially
Yeah.
with transmogs, being able to hide your gloves, for example, as a transmog option, also makes it interesting because that means you can hide your gloves and show off this instead. So these are essentially your gloves in terms of how you look.
It's really good with the Nightborne Heritage armor set because it's the same purple as the like glowy bits on your helm and shoulders, all the pointy ends. So it looks really good there. Like I think it would be cool if Lightforge had a yellow glow. Maybe Priest could do something to unlock a white glow or a purple glow. I think that there's lots of potential here.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So it's nice to see that they're playing around with it.
Yeah. Like, I think that these tier 20 sets, especially from the Mage Tower, are showing us that people love things that have glows. Like, I thought the Rogue set was kind of but everyone's like, there's black smoke, coming from it.
Yeah,
Or,
the black smoke is
um,
cool. Mm-hmm.
yeah, like, a lot of these sets are similar to the regular ones, but they just have extra sort of smoke or glow effects, and people really like that stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that came about is that we had more details on Blizzard nerfing legacy bosses. The Wowhead team actually ran through some in Antorus and Nighthold, confirming they were in. But yeah, it definitely seems going back to time walking that Blizzard is trying to
Work
make
on
the old
tuning.
content more
Mm-hmm.
appealing.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Antorus, Tomb, Nighthold, and Trial of Valor receive changes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you don't really have a reason to run these except for things like transmog and mounts. So it's good they're trying to attract that crowd, and not instead of being like, oh,
Definitely.
it's old content, goodbye.
Yep. No, for sure. I think that's
So
nice to see as well. Just making sure to polish some of the old content, especially frustrating if it's things that people have been trying to solo but can't solo. So, yeah, this is nice to see. It means that they're looking at tuning and making sure things are working, the older stuff as well.
yeah, also if you're a player that didn't experience Legion, you might want to do these raids anyway to see things like, the cinematic where like Illidan is, disintegrating Gul'dan, or Illidan in Tomb of Sargeras, or just Antorus, like the dialogue about Sylvanas towards the end, or just seeing, if everyone's like, ooh, is Argus related to, the jailer, Death Titan? It's like, okay, what's actually happening in the fight, So, if people can actually see these now, I think that's a good thing.
Definitely. And I think that was about it when
Yeah.
it comes to the PTR stuff. And
Yeah.
we're
Well,
now, we
there's a
can.
PTR build going on right
Oh,
now,
oh,
but
okay.
yeah, I don't think there's any models we've posted so far, but so far it seems that um you get more experience for completing Torghast side objectives if you're leveling via Threads of Fate, and
Okay.
there's a bunch of monk tuning and male Nightborne
For PvP?
faces. Um, it seems to be surrounding the Venthyr
Oh,
ability.
okay.
Um,
I've heard
and
a lot of
they
complaints about monks in PvP. Yeah.
yeah, and they fixed an issue with some Nightborne male faces looking angrier than intended.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen those angry
Yeah.
faces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so next we can discuss WoW Classic, which is actually good timing because uh the beta just started
Oh,
a few minutes ago actually.
wow. Well, speaking of live news, there it
Yeah.
is. So the beta for Season of Mastery?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
so the Season of Mastery is basically Blizzard's spin on Classic Fresh. It will introduce changes to world buffs, leveling rates, quality of life updates, increased debuff limits, a bunch of stuff. And the idea is that it will be an accelerated version of WoW Classic that takes place over 12 months, and with the emphasis on mastery,
That's really
there will be
interesting.
like no world buffs allowed. Some bosses will be harder. No boss debuff limit, which could change the class composition somewhat. If now a class can have their debuff up that
Dots
previously
up.
they couldn't
Yeah.
have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and increased health on bosses to offset the removed debuff limit. And they want the experience to feel more challenging. Um, but because it's more condensed, they want to also do stuff like faster quest leveling,
Mm-hmm.
so people can hit 60 before season of mastery is over.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been met with mixed reception. I think people are happy that Blizzard wants to attempt classic fresh. People seem divided on the world buff situation. Maybe that needs its own. Maybe there should just always be servers for like with and without world buffs. And a lot of some people are saying this is cool, but maybe it should be more different if it's so soon after regular classic. Or I like everything about this. It makes it more difficult like original WoW, but
Mm-hmm.
why are we speeding up the leveling? That seems out of place. Or will there be more loot that drops if the phases are really sped up? Stuff like that.
Oh, that's a good point too. Yeah, that's interesting.
Or will there be another season coming after this that is like all about buffs? The world buff thing is weird because they just made that chrono boon item and now it's sort of useless. Um,
Yeah. What was the point of
so
that even?
yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't used for
But
any.
yeah,
It was there for like a month.
yeah, it seems really weird. But yeah, that's an example. I think people just want more communication about those sorts, like how will the AQ war effort begin, because on some servers, not the power servers, it takes a while to unlock. So does that mean that phase 6 could start before uh, you know, people have unlocked stuff with AQ?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Like I said, I think it's good that Blizzard is trying new things, and I think maybe they've also seen that like Classic just has more staying power than TBC. So maybe they're trying to maybe capitalize on that, and how a lot of private servers will do like, variations on the original game, tweaking things for different challenges. With the Quest XP, I hope that's not I hope that's to in place of paying for a boost. Like I hope it's like, oh, if you're an average player, questing is easier as opposed to, oh, and you can just, buy a 60. I think that would be bad.
Yeah, no,
Like I hope they
absolutely.
don't do like the Dark Portal pass for Season of Mastery.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially after what happened with TBC, I think that would end up really badly.
Yeah.
They have
So,
also mentioned talking
yeah.
about looking at mage boosting too. There's no
Yeah.
answer to how they're going to deal with that, but I think that's really interesting as well. Because if they're looking at mage boosting, that means they specifically don't want people to level quickly by being boosted. Then that's even more reason why they wouldn't, offer an actual boost. That would be really weird. Um, I think that's interesting
Yeah,
though.
I Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that people are happy to hear that mage boosting will be addressed. I think they just want to make sure that it is addressed properly.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know, right now it's like, oh, Blizzard thanks you for reporting bots, or Blizzard isn't, targeting things in the way that's creating meaningful change.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, hopefully they are learning from the past. Might be too early to say, with how people have, felt a little frustrated, with some things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I do think that more communication here is good, especially because the team has, changed a bit from 2019. With
Mm-hmm.
different people in charge, and the how like Omar did a lot of the tech, and now he's no longer at Blizzard. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's good that if Blizzard is explaining why they're doing certain things. I always thought it was really good during Classic when they wrote those long essays on why certain things weren't a bug, or how they did the math and determined uh like why an ability worked a certain way. So I think that uh it's good to explain what they're doing and what the, goal is. Like, is this meant to feel a little more difficult? Is this meant to feel way more difficult? Because they said with TBC they wanted the bosses to feel more difficult, but I think they just, like, it didn't really make a difference. They just still
Yep.
seemed kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
So
For sure. Apparently,
yeah.
you're very decent. I was wondering if
Oh,
you could
weird.
just quickly swap server. That normally
Sure, sure.
resets
Yeah.
it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, she'll be back. Yeah,
Testing.
perfect. Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So yeah.
like
So
Discord
just
just
looking at the
sometimes
patch
out
notes that were
syncing like that.
posted an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the adjustments to curtail power leveling and boosting are not in this week. But the rate of XP gain from quest turn-ins has been increased by 25% across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And mining and herbalism node availability is increased.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be really interesting to see how popular this becomes. I'm one of those people who feel like, well, I played Classic once. I'm not gonna play again. But it's going to be interesting to see, especially on like Twitch and more outside eyes kind of perspectives, because
Mhm.
I have a feeling that this might actually just become a very niche thing that is not very mainstream but still may stay very active, because I think it's part of what made private servers so popular. But it is all about whether people are happy with the changes that Blizzard makes, because
Yeah,
as
and that
soon as
keeps it
people aren't,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
because it's
will
like,
leave.
if the
Mm-hmm.
private server does, a change in a fun way, and
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard does something that's not as much of a challenge, if you want the challenge, you're going to go to the version that does what
Does
you
it the
want
way you want it to
better.
be? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. When people were playing private servers, many of them would also swap between different private servers because they would be sick
Mm.
of how the owner of the first one, or the leadership in general of the first one, maybe isn't how they want it to be. So they go to the next one, then they go to the next one, different rules, different. Like private servers even had like different settings, like
Mm.
leveling takes 2 times less time, or gold acquisition is this much
Yeah, or
higher.
certain items or like rewards you get. Like there's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah, like there's so many different factors, so many different like numbers to play around with, so much tuning, and it's going to be interesting to see if Blizzard manages to actually do it properly, so that actual dedicated private server people would prefer to play this over private servers.
yeah. So I think it's an interesting timing that Blizzard is announcing it now and starting the open beta today because, um, Diablo Immortal got moved to 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Um, New World just came out. Final Fantasy has something on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Blizzard is saying, oh, we might even consider doing like new content tweaks to Diablo 2 Resurrected. So I think they're trying to figure out ways to make their old content engaging as to sort of keep up with these other companies releasing newer games
Mm-hmm.
as they deal with, the lawsuit and also
Mm-hmm.
trying to stay relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So, you
Yep.
know, but yeah, so I think that's about it for the classic news, Bright Paul, you're doing
Mm-hmm.
something. Um, but yeah, for I guess we can discuss some of the more serious news with the
Yep.
lawsuit, including the settlement and the victim compensation and a lot of change references in the game.
Yep.
So yeah, if you have nothing more to say about classic, we can
Mm-hmm.
uh, get
Yeah, I
into
think this
that.
is a good time to jump into that. I'm sure most
Mhm.
people who are listening right now have not missed this, but it's still good to mention in case there's people who are out of the loop. But Blizzard has been
Yeah.
changing things in the game for it would be for 915, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Blizzard has been changing things for 915. A lot of changes, some more obvious, some less so, more subtle changes that are ways for Blizzard to build a world how they want it to be. So this was recently an official statement by Blizzard themselves have been talking about this in particular, covering some specific examples of what is going on. Some of the most popular topics that have been going around online have been the two paintings that were switched over.
Yeah.
We had the more revealing picture of a woman changed to one that's more covered up. We had the one which was of a woman kind of like laying down as a pretty French model, swapped over to a bowl of fruits, and what else did we have? I think the other changes have been more subtle, less talked about, but they're still there.
Yeah.
And
So
this
I think
statement came a lot later. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think we've been finding things every build. Like, the big love rocket was renamed
Yep.
to something else. The icon was changed. Well, the icon still is used for other things, so we think it was changed to just be more like higher fidelity. They've been updating, they were removing more references to Jesse McCree, who was let go. Um and I think the issue was that the woman to the bowl of fruit transition just sounded very like memeable, and without context it seemed a bit confusing because there are other revealing paintings that are elsewhere. It seemed kind of inconsistent. The bad lost news was still coming in. It's like we don't have communication with Blizzard. All we're hearing is like, oh, the woman is replaced with a bowl of fruit. It just sounds funny. So I think that is what prompted Blizzard to make this blue post, providing more context. I think that Blizzard doesn't have a ton of PR, but I think that as part of this, they probably should have had PR to just sort of troubleshoot how this would have gone down.
Mm-hmm.
Because this blue post is saying that they set up internal channels where the WoW team could share feedback on content that doesn't represent the team values today. They also gathered feedback from players on every aspect of the game, and then they identify these elements and try to modify them in some way. And it's going to be an ongoing change. They recognize that there can be goofy jokes and innuendos, that's a part of WoW, but they don't want to do things that are funny but also ultimately aren't welcoming to different groups, like a sexist joke that could make women feel like targeted, for example, or something that is like racist humor.
Mm-hmm.
um they did sort of touch on the painting, and they said sorry that some of the art is reused throughout the game, and that maybe some pieces they removed. In some places, like, the intent was to create the art in a way that wasn't respectful, or like maybe it's like hung in some inappropriate way. So that they kind of like strongly hinted that there was more to the story behind that painting
Mm-hmm.
than we didn't know. Um,
I need to refresh you
so
again.
I don't know.
Just give me one
Do I
second.
need to change?
Or yeah,
Okay.
you could refresh it.
Okay.
I think you lagged out
Um.
for a little bit and then you got unsynced.
Oh, weird. Okay. Well, I blame the cat.
Okay, you should be good now.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, um, it does seem like more will be coming. I think it was good to provide more context on this. I also think it would have been good if, well, they said at the start, but I think elaborating more, they've said, this is just one small part of, many things we're working on to be welcoming. I think it would have been good to highlight some of the bigger ones, because while there are some people that I think would take this in bad faith and maybe troll with it, I do think that you do have some more mindful people that would want to come to this with an open mind, but would be confused about some things, without context, or maybe they've experienced harassment in a cover up before, and they could worry that if there's just like a bunch of little things, that it's detracting from the main issue, being solved. Like
Mm-hmm.
we've seen with other movements in, other industries, like, with League of Legends, the lawsuit came to light, and then it's like, oh, look, a video, we're gonna distract with something else, or, here's like, it's like classic. There's a little thing to be outraged by, while people, to distract you from something else in the news. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think a blue post like this was good to just set the record straight on things, especially with like the deluge of news that people are leaving, and like other inappropriate things are coming to life. I think it was good that the dev team tried to clarify um, what they were doing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the I think some of the more recent things, it does make more sense with that blue post. Um, like, if you look at some of the jokes and flirts, some of them seem pretty, see that like the humor is not really appropriate. It could make some people feel uncomfortable. It's not just sort of jokey, general, sexy humor. It is like, a joke on like a racist phrase and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you put it in the context of other changes they're doing, like Karazhan and Black Temple having like male and female party goers, or the Incubus glyph, I think it shows they're not trying to just scrub,
I really
like,
like the incubus
anything.
thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's good to like make things like when they go bigger and try to sort of be inclusive to everyone. I think I like when they do
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Like the
Yeah.
Karazhan thing. I think it was really fun to see that see that change on the PTR.
Yeah, I do think
You know,
that removing
they didn't just like
things.
delete every. If they
Hmm.
deleted stuff, I'd be like, okay, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Illidan no longer has like, trash. Like, Wing of Black Temples cut off. I think that would be weird and strange, but I like how they're
Hmm.
handling that in the Incubus Glyph.
Yeah, I think, like you said, when things are being removed, it comes off as more damaging and more negative. Whereas if things are added, it would be a completely different tone to it. And I think also people should take note, or not take note, but also realize that these things were decided by the people on the WoW team. Potential
Yeah.
also people who want to get rid of things that were put in there by people who are no longer on the company. And I feel like that's a very okay thing to do. Like I'm in support of people, of them wanting to remove things that were done by people who were, abusers in the company, maybe even using some of those things on the workers who were still there. And having more examples of adding more, like the male succubus, the incubus, and the male versions, and the Karazhan ghosts, and all those kind of things is really nice to see as well, because we don't want to see a world where nothing is allowed to be a bit sexual of any sort, but keeping it like mindful and still being able to make it varied towards both males and females. I think is like a good goal. And on the topic of the paintings
Yeah.
as well, there was a lot of outrage on that, and I feel like you mentioned and like it's hinted in the text as well, we don't know the real reason to why they were removed. It's random paintings and random buildings, really old, that probably nobody knows about. And it's a very specific example that might be people on the team who might have been bothered by this for the past 5-10 years, but never been able to remove it, and now they finally can. And I think that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, it doesn't affect any of our gameplay.
Yeah, like maybe it was placed next to like an NPC referencing someone that was let go, or it was like, oh, I made this art with, employee so and so in mind, without her permission. You don't really know what's going on with it. But yeah, I would say that I think it would be good if this blue post had come out sooner. And
I think they didn't expect people
Blizzard.
to maybe see everything so fast. Maybe.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean, it's like, I think the first tip off was when they changed the Legion zone to Eridath. Like, you could just log on and like open up the map and see it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think people started looking for stuff, and while the paintings did come from data mining, a lot of stuff, once people realized that Blizzard was changing things and, had been since last month, a lot of stuff was posted to Reddit first, maybe not as thorough as Wowhead, but things like I remember we posted about Karazhan Ghosts, and people were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, like I just checked Black Temple, that's updated too." Or we reblogged the blue post about emotes, but then people were like, "Oh yeah, I tried out like flirt and joke as well, and other stuff was changed." So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, with how people, we've got, people that look at all sorts of secrets in the game, they test all sorts of little obscure things, they care about, legacy content. I definitely think that, maybe they should have had a plan just to, reach a, just sort of set the record and prepare people for this, while sadly keeping in mind that you will have trolls, and maybe as part of that PR they could have given like employees tips on what to do if people start trolling you, because it is unfortunate when people, you can be confused by something and express confusion politely, but you shouldn't start um, harassing random people that are like, "Oh, I like this change," or "Here's something we've done." Like, you should be respectful about it, and not just
Mm-hmm.
go off and start being mean to people. So I do feel like Blizzard's lack of PR in recent years is kind of hurting them here. But that said, you shouldn't be harassing the devs, or making them afraid to like be active on social media. Um, but I do think because this is sensitive, it would be good if Blizzard had a system. And I also think, importantly, it would be good if they had a system moving forward for this, because you don't want to hear in a few years that, someone that was charismatic, that everyone thought was really cool, was, you know, secretly acting badly behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
now like that person's edgy humor is actually, people secretly wanted some of that gone, or they thought it crossed the line. Like, you don't want this to just keep repeating. And if they're trying to make people feel welcome, there are even bigger things they could do. Like, some people were uncomfortable about, genocide memes with Teldrassil if, their family was from certain parts of the world where
Mm-hmm.
they had to escape things like that in real life. Or, WoW has a lot of other dark topics that are maybe handled seriously in game, but like the marketing and the people surrounding it sort of treat it more as a joke that could, also make people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe like a joke was off color with like a racist element, but like maybe there's more racist examples through like quests or other things. So I would be interested in a blue post on sort of how are they going to, you know uh if they're doing this like retroactively, are they going to be doing stuff like this moving forward for a greater variety of topics. Like, I know a lot of authors or other games will hire like sensitivity consultants to make sure there's nothing offensive that could create a scandal, which is different than erasing sexuality. It's just like, are you doing this in a way that isn't going to be like, leading to a lawsuit? Um,
Yeah.
so,
I
yeah.
mean, to be fair, I
Uh,
think Blizzard
yeah.
has been really good with that stuff lately. Like we even had like characters that are openly being homosexual or openly trans of sorts, or
Yeah.
like there's been multiple different kinds of people in the game in the later expansions, like in Shadowlands especially. So I think Blizzard probably has internally already worked towards those kind of things, and most of these things that are that have been more extreme, I guess, are more of the older things. And I think that's why they're trying to go back and remove those things. And maybe they couldn't before because it's the abusers who were in charge of those
Right.
things, and now they can. So now they want to change
Yeah.
it.
I do think that some races had a ton of flirt and joke removed, and like we were saying before, um, it feels better when you add stuff, or change the content in a way that it still feels um like something, like there's not like a gap in it. So I think if they are removing some stuff that was inappropriate, it would be good to record some new ones, so it's not like, oh, your character wants to be flirty, like now they can, you know this race no longer has any flirts. Bye. Like, I think it would be
That would
good
be
to,
bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would be good to record some more things that um
Yeah, again, we're
present
coming
that
back
in a
to.
positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it goes back to we can't just remove everything. We need to add more and less remove. And hopefully, they will be doing more of that, less of the removing coming forward. Um, I guess we'll see what kind of changes that they do bring in. I also like that they touched upon the fact that they're not making changes to Transmog,
Yeah.
because people were worried about that. People were worried that now they're sort of the slut mogs are now not going to be
Yeah.
possible to use. But yeah, it's nice that Blizzard did say that that's not going away. That's not going anywhere. Because those are
Yeah.
player decisions that they want to wear those things, then they should be able to.
Yeah, we discussed the contrast with Final Fantasy with story, but I mean, also just with aesthetics and stuff. It's like, oh, go to, Final Fantasy, like we have cat girls and bunny ears and, all sorts of, transmogs from super elaborate to bikinis, and, it gets very visually appealing. There can be a sexy element to it, but it's done in a way where everyone feels like very fun. I mean, like, I don't see Final Fantasy being like, oh, we're gonna there's a fear that we're gonna, like remove cat girls or stuff from the game.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but yeah, I am glad they made the blue post on that, and I think more communication on this topic is good. Definitely doesn't need to come from individuals, um, but I do think that general blue posts updating us, like what they're doing with the emotes
mm-hmm.
and explaining why they're changing some,
Mm-hmm.
is
And I
good.
want to see more additions. More additions.
Yeah, I think it's also good for younger audiences that maybe haven't like lack more of a perspective, like maybe you came from like a conservative area, a religious person, like you don't understand why everything is wrong, and you just see like, why did this change? So I think that blue post kind of patiently firmly saying some of these things is a good thing for younger players as well. um But yeah,
Yeah.
so that was one big thing, and I'm sure it will continue. I'm sure there's more changes that people are noticing in today's PTR build.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, just try to be respectful, sort of on both sides. Like, if you don't understand why something has changed, maybe try to think about why it is, or maybe that this isn't final and something is removed one build, but they're replacing it with something um, similar in another.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you are puzzled why you think someone seems to have difficulty understanding something and they're polite, not trolling, um, try maybe educating them or pointing them in the right direction if they seem genuine about why they are confused by something. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. So
On to
to
more
end,
legality things,
yeah,
I suppose. So, still
yeah.
more of the serious topics.
Mm. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, is an agency now investigating Activision Blizzard. Um, they feel that Activision and its executives may not have properly disclosed the allegations of sexual harassment and discrimination with investors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And that does sound a bit cold, but money talks. So this is a good way of putting pressure on Blizzard. Like, Blizzard was all like, sorry, Activision was all like, nothing is wrong here until their stock dropped.
Yep.
So this keeps putting pressure on them.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the stock price, um, when the news started, Activision was at 91 stock, and now they're at 76. And it continues to drop.
It actually went down that
So
much. Wow.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of dropped to like 83 when the walkout was announced, and it's
Mm-hmm.
continued to trend downwards. It hasn't bounced back up.
Mm-hmm.
So the SEC is saying, you didn't let us know that this PR nightmare is going to occur, and you should have disclosed this because now all your investors have this unexpected turbulence and they are losing money. And if you were
Yep.
found in violation, you could face serious fines or penalties. So, um, but yeah, I mean, the end result is probably that Activision Blizzard will be found in negligence due to not properly following up on allegations, as opposed to deliberately trying to create a hostile environment. So they probably won't get criminal charges, but it's definitely keeps the pressure, keeps people talking about Blizzard.
Yep. Definitely. And we had another case where there was. What, let's see, where is it?
Yeah, ending on a
Yeah, here.
little more of a positive note.
Yeah, this one was another case that actually went to a closing, you could say.
Yeah. They have reached an agreement with the Equal Employment Opportunity
Mm-hmm.
Commission. They've settled, and they've established an $18 million compensation
Settled.
fund to make amends to eligible victims of harassment and gender inequality issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then any unused amounts will be divided between charities that advance women in the video games industry. Um, and the company is announcing an initiative to also develop software tools and training programs to improve workplace policies and practices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so basically, you can the this company, the EEOC, will have full and complete discretion to determine who is eligible for this money, as well as the amount. So it seems that that's good that it's not you don't go through Blizzard, you're going through this third party.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, apparently it's tricky because 18 million when you look at Blizzard's war chest is not a huge amount. Um, but it is, by corporate standards, it is fairly respectable. Um, so it definitely was in the news. It's not
Like it gives
trivial,
bad
especially
publicity.
standards, but it really just sort of it does make you. It sort of goes back to the indirectly being like, oh, like Blizzard has a lot of money. Wow. Like or like, Bobby
Yeah.
Kotick, has a lot of money in bonuses, or like, it just makes
Mm-hmm.
you think about all the problems that still remain in the workplace, and sort of the weird inequality of
Mm-hmm.
corporate culture.
Because the first
That
reaction when reading this is like, that's awesome. I mean, like 18 million people for all these
Yeah.
people. Apparently, the damages one person can claim can be up to $300,000 as a maximum.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be split between the 50 to 100 claimants.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but in the grand scheme of things, then you start wondering, like, how much is 18 million for the company? How much does it actually hit it? Is the bad publicity enough for it to be a considerable amount, or is this like a no problem for Blizzard? Will Blizzard be like, oh, that's fine, yeah, let's just pay that, okay, we're good, let's go next topic? Obviously, it's nice that people will get some recovery for what they have been going through, but I do wonder what this means for the company as a corporation in the long term.
Uh, It's also interesting when you think of the dynamic between Activision and Blizzard, because Activision is paying for all of this, and there was one really horrible incident involving Activision in the lawsuit, but it seems like 90% of this that's come to light is with Blizzard, and specifically the WoW team. So you have this weird dynamic where Blizzard, on its own, even before they were bought by Activision, had issues, and now Activision is sort of
Having to deal
paying
with it.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes you wonder, like, will Activision exert more pressure or control on them, being like, okay, like, not only did you really mess up, but you've cost us this money, so we really need to make sure that you're making games on a schedule that is keeping you part of this umbrella of
Yeah.
game studios.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, I mean, also looking at this, it's like, Activision is the place that is doing the payments. Blizzard is the one that is just creating the problems for
Yeah,
them.
that's actually
So,
really bad because Activision could
yeah.
just be then like, you know what? Screw this. We are not doing your games anymore.
Yeah. Or it's like, well, before we gave you leeway on like your creative vision and like not all these microtransactions, but sorry, like, we need to ship games on time, no delaying until it's ready,
Mm-hmm.
get this out the door, make it profitable, no pushing things back even further, so you don't know what this is
Mm-hmm.
going to cause in the
And
future.
speaking of microtransactions, having experience now in other games as well, Blizzard has a very small store.
Yeah.
There's actually not that many things like okay, there's the WoW token, which could be argued to be, you could spend a lot on it with limits on a weekly basis, but you could potentially in the long run spend lots and lots of money on that.
Yeah,
But
or
in
like the whole
terms of
like
like
WoW token boosting thing, like it could add up, but I know
exactly,
what you're saying.
yeah. But in terms of like the options of variety, the amounts of mounts, pets, is very limited compared to pretty much every other MMORPG I've taken a look at. And I think that's also really interesting because that might also be a Blizzard thing that has been kind of holding itself on, because they did a transmog thing once with 3 headpieces, right? And they never did that again. And it feels like maybe Blizzard has been pushing back on having those type of things, whereas other games are more likely to put more like costumes and transmog like things on the store. And I think it's really interesting because, yeah, what if now Activision's like, yeah, you know what? We're putting more transmog on the store now. We need more reasons for more people to spend money.
Yeah.
It is very possible that they'll give like the Blizzard team itself less decision power in that.
Yeah. It is interesting also that, all the high profile employees leaving suddenly make a lot more sense with the lawsuit going into being investigated. Like, before it's like, oh, maybe it's just the people that everyone heard about is leaving. People leave all the time. But the timing is, very suspicious how they all seem to leave when the investigation was going on. Like, maybe they figured it was better to go elsewhere, that they wouldn't really be advancing in the Blizzard, Activision pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Now that if they were complicit in some of this, or if they have the stigma of, oh, I was a manager at the problem studio in the Activision family.
Yeah.
Or even if they weren't really, just like, oh, do I want to be around managing this when uh this news comes to light,
Mm-hmm.
and the game makes less money or we get less players, like, do I want that on my record, or should I get out early and make other connections? So a lot of this makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
I
I
think that
think
covers all
that's
the
about
topics.
it.
Yeah.
Uh, we are in the middle of the PTR.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely check that out. Um, we
Oh yeah,
beta
new
mined the
PTR
Winter
build
Veil
right now.
21, yeah, 2021 gift. So that's kind of cool. It is
Okay.
um the Rock and Rollin' Racer customizer, and it's like a little car and it changes colors, so that's kind of cool.
Wait, what was it?
Um,
Christmas gift?
it's like a Rock and Racer. It's like
Ah,
a car, like a little
mm-hmm.
tank.
For
Um,
Christmas, or did you say what for
yeah,
it was? Yeah. Okay.
Winter Veil.
Wintervale.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So at least we're getting
Um,
915 before winter.
yeah, yeah. So we'll get that.
In
Um,
case anyone was unsure.
yeah. Um, and yeah, they have also added some emotes that were removed last build, so you can fart again in the game.
Oh, they added
So
some back?
yeah. Uh
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, so I mean, this could just be data mining, or it could be, based on player feedback. They've added it back but changed some of the wording so it was less negative and more like dramatic, I guess. But yeah, you can fart again, there's drool, you can cough. Um, who knows if this will change in a future build, but I think that's an example of how it's like a removing and adding process, not just removing. Like if if
Mm-hmm.
something is removed, it could be getting tweaked and coming back in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, so we got the rocket, we got some monk changes, and we've got some
Has any
emotes
of this actually
so
been posted
far.
yet, or is it later?
Yeah, it's been posted in the last like 30 or so minutes. So
Okay. All right. Good
yeah.
to know. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess just finally, you may have seen a lot of Diablo stuff on Wowhead for Diablo 2. We did this as a little fun side project when there was WoW downtime and people really like our guides. So we've basically decided that since we're already trying to modernize and restructure the site with all these different WoW versions of the game, and we'll get a good framework in place, that we want to do our Diablo stuff properly, and we have the funds to invest in that. So we are hiring an editor in chief to help manage our content going
Mm.
forward with that. So we are actively hiring. I put up the job notice a few days ago, a full time
That's cool.
salary position,
Mm-hmm.
and you should start seeing some more refinement to different branches of the site, like, a Diablo homepage, a more modern front page that has some like cleaned up navigation, maybe some more tools that aren't just guides, and all the navigation improvements will extend to other parts of the site, so we don't have a mess when it's like WoW and WoW Classic Fresh and Classic Guides and TPC and Legacy
Yeah.
Wrath and like
Oh yeah, there's
WoW
actually so
mobile
many.
game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, in the process of trying to make the site cleaner for all these different versions of WoW, we're like, well, if we have this framework set up, we could very easily um, give our Diablo content a proper home. And some of us enjoyed, working on this as a change of pace from WoW because Diablo was like less in the spotlight with the controversy. And, people are really enjoying the guides, especially the rune word one and some of the Sork builds. So, we want to take it seriously as an experiment and see how it goes because it's got a really good reception so far on the
Mm-hmm.
site. So
That's
if you're
awesome.
wondering why this content popped up and if there's gonna be more of it, but maybe you want the site to like be structured differently, we are growing as well as trying to have the site scale up to handle different versions of Blizzard franchise games.
Mm-hmm. That's
And yeah,
awesome.
that's about it.
Yeah.
The job
Sounds like an
listing is
exciting new
sticky.
future for Wowhead.
Yeah, it's been a cool project as well, also for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
normally when we do
Yeah, like more
part of the
variety.
site, it's like we gotta do like a database and then like model viewer and like, 500 guides. And with this, it's like, oh, what if we just did like a little batch of guides and,
Mm-hmm.
see how they went? And, it's like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Like, maybe we can, start small and grow. And it's like a good learning experience as opposed to having to, you know, try to do every single
Yeah.
thing, no matter how obscure with something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'd be good.
Yeah, I think it sounds good.
Yeah.
And a good ending to the show as well. Thank you to
Yep.
everyone for hanging out today, listening to the news, both game and more serious topics as well. And we'll see you guys next show, covering
Yeah.
everything between now and then.
Yep. So
Also, a
yeah,
quick
we
shout
will.
out.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to Colnaris with a 5-month resub, Noma with a 14-month resub, and Macken with a 25-month resub as well. Thank you guys for
Yeah. Thank
supporting
you.
Wowhead here on Twitch. And
Yeah.
yeah, we'll be back again next week. Go ahead and check out the news. They are on Wowhead already as of a few minutes ago to cover all the recent things from PTR.
Yeah.
Yep. See you all next
Right.
time.
Yep.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.